In this lesson, you'll learn how to use fragments in your Android apps. A fragment represents a behavior or a portion of a user interface and an activity. You can combine multiple fragments in a single activity to build a multi-pane user interface and reuse a fragment in multiple activities. You can think of a fragment as a modular section of an activity, and it has its own life cycle, receives its own input events, and which you can add or remove while the activity is running. It's sort of like a sub-activity that you can reuse in different activities. This page on the developer's website has a lot of good information on fragments, and one of the common uses of fragments is to create layouts that'll adapt to different device screens. In this example from the website, we see a layout appearing in a tablet with a list on the left and the details of a list item appearing on the same screen. On a handset with a smaller screen, the list and details appear on separate screen displays. And we're going to focus on code from the API demos to explore fragments. And let's begin by looking at fragments in the API demos worksheet. In the demos worksheet, there's a large secondary group of fragment demos shown here within the primary app group. Let's look at a basic display demo. I'll use the hide and show demo on line 59, which has the Java file name of fragment hide show. So let's see what this does in the emulator. We click App, Fragment, and Hide and Show. When we click the buttons, the text disappears and then reappears. In the top button example, it's the fragment that's saving and restoring the text. And in the bottom button, it's the text view that's doing the saving and restoring. And this will become clear as we look at the code, which we'll do now. In the app source folder, we'll open Fragment Hide Show. First, in line 36, we have the main activity, Fragment Hide Show. In line 39, we have the onCreate method for the main activity, and we're going to be building multiple fragments within this activity. In line 41, we use the setContentView method with the Fragment Hide Show layout to initialize the screen. So let's open that layout. So I scroll down in the project directory, open the resources folder, open the layout folder, and double-click on the Fragment Hide Show XML file. In line 19, we declare a linear layout. In line 24, we have the text view for the title text. In line 29, we have another linear layout embedded under the first linear layout. In line 33, we have the top button in our layout with an ID of frag1 hide. In line 37, we have a fragment with the ID fragment1. And in lines 43 through 55, we have the same layout defined for the second button and fragment. Now let's go back to the Java source. In line 45, we create a fragment manager using the getFragmentManager method. In lines 46 and 47, we're using the addHideShow listener method defined below to create listeners for our two display buttons. In lines 50 through 67, we have the method that creates a listener for a given button ID. In lines 53 through 65, we have the code that's executed when the button is clicked. In line 54, a fragment transaction, which is an API for performing fragment operations, is initiated using the getFragmentManager method. In lines 55 and 56, a fade in and out custom animation is set up for the fragment. In lines 57 through 63, action is taken when the button is clicked. If the fragment is currently hidden, the show method is used to display it, and the setText method is used to change the button text to hide. If the fragment is currently displayed, it's hidden with the hide method, and the button text is changed to show. In line 64, the commit method is used to cause the fragment changes to take place. Now let's look at the code that defines the fragments. In line 69, we have the class declaration for the first fragment, which extends the fragment class. In line 70, a text view variable is declared to hold the text in the fragment display. In line 73, we have an override of the onCreateView method of the fragment class. And the system calls this method when it's time for the fragment to draw its user interface for the first time. To draw a user interface for your fragment, you return a view from this method that's the root of your fragment's layout, and we do this in line 84. In lines 75 through 77, the text in the fragment is set. And this code uses another layout labeled TextEdit. Let's open that. In lines 23 through 26, we have a text view with the ID MSG. And in lines 28 through 34, we have an edit text with the ID saved. Now back in the Java source, in lines 75 through 77, the text is set in the labeled TextEdit text view. I'm going to open this up so we can see the code better. In line 80, mTextView is set to the saved text view. In lines 81 and 82, if something has been saved in the bundle saved instance state, mTextView is set to that value. And in line 84, we return the view, which is set to the labeled TextEdit layout. In lines 88 through 93, we have the code that saves the mTextView text when the onSave instant state method is invoked, which is called before placing the activity in a background state. In lines 98 through 103, we do the same things for the second fragment we did as the first fragment in lines 72 through 77. And line 109 is different. Here's where we're using the text editor to save the text. And in line 110, we're returning the view. That's our lesson on fragments. A lot went on in a relatively small sample of code. You've seen how to check if fragments are visible or hidden, display fragments, change and save the contents of fragments, and include fragments in a layout. Now, this should give you a good base for using fragments in your apps.